Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
I love you.
You know,
Hello, I'm Tristan Riddell,
And I'm the girl.
and this is Nerd Nuptial episode 117.
That's right.
117 episodes that
Crazy.
we've done of this, and how are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm doing okay too.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So today, I'm actually really excited about today because we've only done this 2 times before. Out of those 117 episodes, 116 episodes,
Okay.
we have only done 2 of these before, and that is listener questions.
Yeah, it's fun.
I really enjoy doing this. I think it's interesting to get some of our audience questions, and sometimes they can be dirty, sometimes they're about marriage, sometimes they're just generic like film questions. It's interesting what our audience comes up with. Now we get a lot of these questions, so we can't always address them on air. Sometimes I try to respond via Twitter or via email, but I've only selected just a few to talk about on air today.
Sounds good.
But before we get into that, I had some fun last night that I need to share with the audience.
Yeah.
Because a friend of mine called Jim Morehouse. Called Jim. He goes by Jim. He is also better known as Enterprise Extra on Twitter. We've known each other for almost 10 years, even before Twitter. And he flew into town, and I met up with him and a couple other friends, and he is a huge Star Trek fan, even bigger than I am, like even a bigger nerd than I am. And he really loves this Star Trek band. That's right, a Star Trek band called 5 Year Mission, which every Star Trek nerd should check out. And they write songs based off of the original series of Star Trek.
That's so fun.
And it was a real, I've never heard them before, never seen them before, and he took me. It was a lot of fun. It was more fun to see all of my friends and go out to dinner with them, but it was really interesting to see that much nerdy devotion that you would literally travel America and play your nerdy music and wear costumes on stage.
Awesome.
You kind of have to admire that amount of devotion.
Absolutely. Very cool.
That was a lot of fun. And
I did not go with.
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
It would be wasted on me. So I did not go with.
Oh, one other thing. I was interviewed by thespoilist.com.
Yeah, you got an interview. That was awesome.
That was great. It's the
Podcast Stars or something like that.
It was called Podcast Stars. It's a feature that they do on the website, and everyone should go check it out. Go to thespoilist.com. We'll have it linked in the show notes, so you can go to thenerdparty.com/nerdnuptial. Check out episode 117. It'll be there. It'll be linked in there. And it was really just about the main thing that they wanted to ask me about was Nerd Nuptial and how the show got started and how I was able to convince you to come on board and everything like that.
Yeah,
and so
it's really fun.
Since a lot of people listen to us because of our dynamic and because of our history, this is kind of a nice written summation of our history as podcasters. So everyone should go and check it out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so listener questions.
Yes.
Do you ever hope to get something? Like, are you ever, like, when you say, like, okay, when we agreed that we were going to do another listener question episode, did you ever think, like, oh, I hope I get a question like this so I can talk about this? Or is it all just kind of like, bring it on?
That's an interesting question. I think it's always interesting when they ask us questions about our relationship, because that's kind of like the root of this podcast.
It's called Nerd Nuptial.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So I think it's always interesting when they ask us those type of questions. But thinking like, oh, I hope they ask us, not really.
For me, because I've become one of those dads.
Oh, yeah?
I am totally one of those dads. Like, if you want to ask me questions about my daughter, I will answer. And if you're in my proximity, I will show you pictures.
Okay, already you're that dad.
I am that person. I am that dad. And so when we were doing listener questions, I was like, I hope we get a Ripley question. And we did.
We did? Oh, okay.
We got one Ripley question.
Okay. All
so,
right. Sounds
yes.
good.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and go right into it. And so right off the top, here's one, and we don't give names because we never know. Like
we never ask permission or whatever, so it's kind of weird if we.
Yeah, like that's the thing, because like in the past, like on another show that I was on, we did this, and someone got super upset with us that we used their last name. And so
that's awkward.
And so I was just like,
there's no need for that.
I just don't do it anymore. No. I just don't give out names. I mean, like, if you hear your question, you know who you are.
Exactly.
So here we go. What are your individual shows? And I think this individual means like shows that you watch by yourself.
Okay.
Because they say I find it's hard to find something to watch by myself because I want to watch them all with my wife. Now, this is something that we can relate.
Interesting.
We can hardcore relate to this.
Oh, completely. So actually, like the past 2 nights, like you went out last night, I went out the night before, with like a girlfriend, and it's always interesting when we're kind of put in that position where we are by ourselves, because even before like either of us leave the house, I'm kind of like, I'm thinking about watching this. Is that okay? It's like an infidelity is being committed if I go ahead and like I wouldn't watch Roma without you.
Oh no.
Exactly. Like, so just different things like that where we kind of check with each other before we watch something. Because we're not all like, I know that there is a thing out there where some people will like watch an episode and then they'll like especially when it comes to television or something like that, and then they'll like pretend that they haven't watched something.
I could never do that.
Right? And
nor could I pull it off, I think.
I'm too bad of a liar. Like, you would know immediately.
You are a horrible liar.
I am.
It always surprises me because you are a fantastic actress, but a horrible liar.
When it comes to being myself, I'm a terrible liar. I was always very transparent. So I feel like we're pretty good about checking with each other.
Like you did the other day, it was a show on Netflix, something about, is it feminists, where like feminists, where are we, how did we get here?
It was like a feminist documentary type thing.
Yeah. And you know, would I have watched that with you? Yes. Would I have enjoyed myself? Yes. But that's one of those things where
did you need to watch it?
Did I need to watch it? No. I can move on.
Yeah. But we do struggle. I mean, I do at least, trying to figure out something to watch when you're not around, because we do watch pretty much everything together.
99% of our stuff is together.
Yeah, and we have very similar tastes. So I usually try to kind of indulge in some of the stuff that like I used to watch. So like more reality TV type things.
Like you just got into the British baking show or something?
The British baking show, yes. The Great British Baking Show. Because everyone has told me for years to watch it, and so I finally broke down, and I was like, fine, I'll watch it. And now I'm like hooked. And I also will watch, like, I think I've said this before on the show, but like crime dramas and stuff like that. So like right now I'm watching An Innocent Man. I just finished Making a Murderer Part 2. You really didn't have an interest in finishing that story.
No, not really.
So I'll watch that kind of thing because apparently I like to terrify myself.
every once in a while, like when I'm gone for a while, because I was gone for a conference for 4 days last week.
Yeah.
I will come back and look at the Netflix history,
yes.
and all of a sudden I think I'm gonna get Gone Girled, and I was just, but yeah, so I was as I said, I was gone at a conference, and most of my nights were free,
right?
Or I would have gaps in between.
Sure.
It was horrible. Like I'd have something at 2 p.m. and then I wouldn't have anything until 10 p.m. But in between, I was just like, okay, I'm going to use this time to watch movies and TV shows that you do not want to watch, that I know you don't want to watch.
Right.
So to answer this listener's question, specifically shows, I watch the really, really, really stupid stuff without you.
Yes.
Like Archer.
Yes.
I watch without you.
What's the really gross one I won't watch with you?
Big Mouth.
Yeah, I'm not into that one.
That's fine. I don't expect you to be. I don't want you to be. Big Mouth is one of those shows where I watched the first season and I actually was surprised. It's grotesque. Like it's one of the most vulgar humor things that I've ever watched, but it had such a surprising amount of heart and earnestness to it. Like it took me off guard.
Right.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm caring for these little grotesque little kids running around. going through puberty. And I was just like, okay, well, when I was gone, when I was at the conference, the second season just dropped.
Right.
Or actually, it dropped a little bit before. I was like, okay, I'll crank this out. And it was nowhere near as good, but I was able to find that out without feeling like, oh God, is she judging me for watching this?
I didn't even get to the heart of it because I was just like, not for me.
No.
Yeah, I think like my line is like Rick and Morty, and that's like as far as I go as far as that type of cartoon.
I still can't believe that you watch Rick and Morty with me. I mean, I totally...
That is as far as I go, and even then I'm like stretching it.
So yeah, I think really the only thing that I can think of right now that I watch that's my individual show would be Big Mouth and Archer. And even like Archer, I really just go on spurts. Like I don't watch it regularly. I wait for a couple seasons to build up and then I binge.
Yeah.
But that's all that I can think of because now that you watch Rick and Morty with me.
Right. I know. I think like, what was it? The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I thought about watching without you, but then I was like, but you might want to watch it.
I would have been happy if you watched it without me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because
so now I know.
Because you would have been able to tell me if it was worth our time or not.
That's true.
Everyone loves that show and is talking about that show, and I just don't get it. I don't get it.
And you're such a Palladino fan from Gilmore Girls, so it's just interesting. So to answer your question, we do have things, but we have to struggle.
Yeah.
Like if you struggle, we struggle too, because we often will not want to be like, "Oh, you watched that without me," because that's the worst when that happens.
It is. So basically, to summarize, you like true crime shows.
Yes.
With a little reality-based stuff.
That feels good. It's like feel-good reality.
Feel-good reality TV.
Yes.
Feel-good reality TV. And I am stupid, grotesque, animated shows. But as far as movies, like I was hitting as many movies as I could.
Yes, you were.
For 2018. Like I'm trying to bank as many 2018 films before January 1st rolls around.
Right.
And so at this conference, I hit a lot. Like I watched The Other Side of the Wind, Buster Scruggs, Mandy. I'm blanking on some other ones. None of them I enjoyed.
Right. There was a lot of them. Like, and I think like if we get into something and we're like, "Ooh, I should watch this with Tristan," or "I should watch this with a girl," then we usually stop too.
That's true. Actually, I was talking to you via text where you were going out with your friend, and I said, I was at work first, and I said, I was like, "Do you mind if I watch Roma tonight? Do you have any interest in that?" And you're like, I don't know. And you told me, they're like, well, if it starts to get interesting, just turn it off. I said, it was like, just so you know, it's directed by Alfonso Cuarón. And you're like, oh, well, no. Yeah,
I was like, then what are you thinking? No. Why would you even ask me?
Okay, so hopefully, I think that answered your question.
So,
okay, so onward to the next one.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, you mentioned, quote, going outside your comfort zone, end quote. Have you guys done that yet?
Interesting. Okay, I think so.
I have.
What?
No, that's not.
That's so mean.
I'm just kidding.
What? You know, you're not. There's some honesty there. I think that we've tried to watch a lot more 2018 films in preparation for like Oscar season and stuff like that. So we're trying our best to get through as many as we can. But you think that you've watched more.
No, okay.
But that's because you were at a conference.
It's true.
And I get sleepy.
No, it's true. It's true. I did bank a lot while I was at the conference. The other one that I watched at the conference, I'm looking up at our diary right now, our watch diary, was a Scottish film called Caliber.
Oh, yeah, you were really into that.
I really enjoyed it. I still don't think you would like it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's on Netflix. It's about two friends going out into the woods, and there's a hunting accident. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. It's much more well done than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And for one of our questions later, I will bring this up again.
Okay.
But yeah, so just I think to kind of go, let's see,
well, we're at least trying. Okay, so like usually around this time of year, we're watching only like our go-to Christmas movies and stuff like that, and like holiday movies. And,
yeah, we went from Halloween to Christmas.
Yeah, usually, and I think we've done a lot less of that this year. Because you watch the same thing over and over again. We talked about that like one of our last episodes, but also we are trying to make a concerted effort to actually get through more 2018 films.
And stuff we wouldn't necessarily watch outside our comfort zone.
Exactly. So, like, even though we might feel like watching Deadpool for the, like, 6th time, we are going to watch something new. So, like, tonight we're going to watch Roma. Mm-hmm. So, like, things like that. We're trying our best.
Well, actually, Roma I wouldn't necessarily say is outside our comfort zone.
No, I'm just saying, like, we're trying to expand our horizons a little bit for us.
I think some people might think go outside your comfort zone. We did talk about how we need to watch like more indie films, more foreign films, and things like that, and stuff that we think would be kind of weird, and that includes that, but mainly for us, for baby steps, I think.
Yes.
Going outside our comfort zone is not a bankable yes. Like there's certain times we'll see a film trailer and we're like, wow, that looks really good. We'll definitely, there's a really solid chance we're going to like that.
Right.
But we've watched a lot of movies lately where we're like, I don't know if we're going to like that, but we power through and say, no, let's watch it. Let's give it a try. And one of those was like Hearts Beat Loud.
Yeah, we did watch
with
that one.
Nick Offerman and Downsizing.
Yeah, we watched that one too.
Sorry to Bother You. And Unsane, Phantom Thread. Like those movies were all movies where we're just kind of like,
we just kind of, it's kind of funny because like all those films, we were like, we probably won't be in love with these films. Whereas there's certain times where we're like, oh yeah, we have to see that film.
Yeah.
And then it really disappoints. Whereas these were all like, I know it's just going to be okay in our book. And you kind of know yourself. So you're kind of like, that's not my type of movie, but I still want to watch it and like, you know, give it a shot. And so we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're a long way off from like probably actually getting outside of our comfort zone.
Right. Like I said, baby steps.
Yeah, we're baby step. You know, we're not just doing the blockbusters. We're trying.
And I think like most of these, some of these were god awful.
Yeah.
Like I think I took the brunt of them. Like at the conference. Like like Mandy, I hated. The Other Side of the Wind was, to borrow a phrase, a casserole of nonsense. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs was just a why. Like I was begging for it to be over at the end. And Sorry to Bother You, just don't at me, don't talk to me, don't email me if you disagree, because this was just probably the worst film that I saw of the year, except for 50 Shades Freed. Close. Okay? Close.
You're just embarrassed not to put 50 Shades Freed at the very bottom.
I am. It's true. Because if somebody looked at
you probably enjoyed it more. But
there was some level of enjoyment because I was laughing at it with Sorry to Bother You. I was just angry the entire time. And I go on Letterboxd and check out the reviews of Sorry to Bother You, and it's all like super high numbers and people saying it's just amazing.
Sometimes
I'm just like,
I think people are just afraid not to like something.
There's a new thing like I'm making it sound like I invented it or whatever. Like on Letterboxd, I'm like whenever I watch a movie that is so god awful but pretentious at the same time and people love it, I'm calling it an ocean walker.
I get that.
As an homage to Arrested Development.
Yes.
And hopefully people who have seen that will understand what that means.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's a few surprises, but out of all of those, I think Caliber for me was the biggest surprise out of something that I thought would just be okay.
Maybe I should check it out.
I think yeah.
There's a lot of times here where you'll tell me I won't like something and then I like fall in love with it and make you love it more.
I have been hardcore wrong several times before. I will freely admit that. Like I think my two biggest ones were Mad Men and Breaking Bad. Like I kept telling you now you're not going to like it, and now you like them more than I do.
I do. I've watched them more than you.
You love bringing that up.
All right,
I don't get summers off.
Let's move on.
Okay, moving on. What should we do next?
Let's do what's the reputation of European cinema in America? What do you think is America's reputation over in Europe?
So 2 questions in one.
Right. So first
one, reputation of European cinema in America. Well, European cinema, that's a wide gambit.
That really is.
Gamut.
Yeah.
I should know that word.
It's okay.
So, I mean, you have Spanish films, you have French films, you have Italian films.
Right.
Italian TV is kind of having a renaissance right now. You have, of course, British films, but that can be expanded to Scottish films and Irish films and things like that.
Right.
So you have a lot of different cultures coming out of one big place of Europe. I mean, like, you have America, where it's you have 50 states, but no one's really says, like, have you checked out the new South Dakotan film?
Right.
Like,
right,
that's
right.
not really a thing.
Right.
But it's interesting because, you know, like, I just got done watching a Scottish film, as I just talked about with Caliber, and in my review of the film, I started talking about how if this was an American film, it would be nowhere near as good.
Why?
I feel like American films have a tendency to go towards archetypes with their characters.
Okay.
So after this hunting accident, there's one person who was absolutely terrified, couldn't think. And there was another person who was just as terrified, but was able to climb through the muck and figure out what to do next. I feel like if this was American made, that you would have one person who was just absolute in shambles and then another person who had no moral center whatsoever. And
a murderer or just a bad person.
Just a crazy bad person who was just
psychotic.
Who's just like, I'll do whatever it takes, you know. And,
okay.
And you got a little bit of that in the movie, but you could tell that these people were thrust into a situation that they did not want to be in, and that they had moral centers, and that they were really grieving what happened, but they just did not want to get caught.
Was it an action hero film?
And yes, okay. And on top of that, like, this was I would say a thriller and suspense. And if it was American, you would have amped up the violence, you would have amped up the quote unquote excitement, and turned it into a cliche action film. And also, there was a pregnant fiance at the beginning of the film. And if this was American made, they would have found some way to put her in danger and bring her back into the story or something like that. And
kind of cliches.
Yes.
America kind of tends to build on the cliches, or we circle back to them often.
And I am not, like, guys, people who have been listening to us for a long time know that I am not someone who just spouts off about how, America doesn't know what they're doing and foreign films is where it's at. I'm not that kind of person at all.
Yeah, if we had to choose, we would say we're more into American cinema.
100%.
For sure.
100%.
But we do see its downfalls, I think, too. And maybe like some of the pitfalls that Hollywood has felt like are more money makers. Yes. Whereas in my head, to answer the question, I feel like as an American, I kind of view European cinema as having probably less of a budget, but maybe focusing more on story. Kind of like our version of indie films.
Yes.
That's how I view it as an American. I could be completely wrong. I'm just saying how I view it.
I think, for a broader perspective, I think the reputation, like for this individual who's asking what's the reputation of European cinema in America, I think for the average audience, European cinema means two things: French with subtitles.
Yep.
Or period piece British drama.
Yes, Downton Abbey type thing
Downton
going on.
Abbey, yeah.
Right. Like, or like Great British Baking Show type stuff. Like the big things, the money makers from like England or from Europe. That's like what the average American is going to see. They're probably, unless they're like super artsy or like a film buff, they're probably not going to see the Italian or the French films that are in subtitles. So I feel, or unless it's like so popular that, you know, it breaks the mold or it gets nominated, then maybe they will, but they probably haven't even been exposed.
Right. Yeah.
To be completely honest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. It's like most of the time they haven't been exposed.
Because we, as Americans, we tend to kind of be very like into our own cinema, and we're guilty of that for sure.
And speaking of which, that kind of bleeds into the next question.
Yeah.
What do you think is America's reputation over in Europe? Let's say America's cinema, because
right.
that's opening up a whole different.
Don't want to
answer
that question.
I think with American cinema, from what I've been told from Europeans that I know, and also from what I gather from media, is that American culture, especially film culture, kind of dominates the world. In realms of entertainment.
Right.
And so with American cinema is synonymous with entertainment around the world. And so I feel like the reputation it's just that. It's entertainment, but it's interesting because, you know, Americans have very much a reputation of being lowbrow, crass, and loud. and our cinema sometimes can be perceived that way too, because the stuff that does really well overseas is the stuff that is not a lot of talking and not a lot of dialogue and not a lot of subtitles, because the stuff that does well in China is the big CGI blockbusters. Right, which makes sense. I mean, now, I know we're not talking about China,
right,
sorry.
But no, but like if we're honest with ourselves, you know, we would have to seek out a foreign film that has subtitles, and it would be the same idea for, you know, a non-English speaking country, right, where it's easier to watch something that doesn't have as much of the dialogue if it is more of like a, you know, action blockbuster, that type of thing. So yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing, you know, either way, but that's kind of our perspective as Americans, I guess.
And besides India, we're the biggest producer of films,
yeah,
you know, in the world.
Right.
So those are your two choices, either Hollywood or Bollywood.
Right.
And if you don't want a dancing musical, you probably go towards Hollywood, because that way you can watch The Rock.
The Rock's in everything.
Okay, moving on. Is the girl as obsessed with viewing quality as Tristan, since he is a self-proclaimed pixel junkie? I was just talking about this online the other day, so that's probably why they chimed in.
I don't think I'm as extreme as you by any means, because this is like part of what you do, like your profession. So like you will notice certain things way faster than and sometimes you'll have to point them out to me as far as like a technical thing, especially when you're talking about pixel junkie. Whereas that doesn't bother me as much, and there's certain things like you're just like, I cannot watch that because of the technical aspect of it. Whereas I'm a little bit more forgiving, I would say, as a general rule.
I think you're definitely more forgiving than I am, but you were definitely a mob wife when it comes to my habits.
What is that supposed to mean?
What it means is that I bought us the world's best TV, literally the world's best screen on a TV that is made by man. And you always made fun of me. You're just like, oh my gosh, like Tristan and his TV. And then I set it up and you're wowed. You're blown away by how
Well, I'm
clear
part of
it
the
is.
reason why you have it too, because you showed me like examples of like what we could have. And then I'm like, why on earth would you show me these crappy examples when I could have this TV?
That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, so maybe I'm higher than maybe I'm more of a pixel junkie than most people, but I'm not as extreme as you.
I think that's fair. That's definitely fair, because there are times when, there are times we're watching something and maybe there's something wrong, or the frame rate is off, or it's not formatted properly on widescreen, and I cannot take my mind off of it.
Right.
I'm like, nope.
Whereas I'm like, I could probably deal with it.
You could power through.
Right. Whereas you can't.
So to answer your question, no.
Not as much.
Not as much, but more than the average person.
Yes.
Because you've been married to me so long.
Probably.
All right, what's the next one?
All right, what are some of your favorite movies of the year so far?
Well,
we're kind of going to talk about that in a few weeks here.
It's true.
Our favorite movies of the year.
I don't.
Should we answer it now?
Maybe just a few. Let's give like one or two, but not our top 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because what we're going to be doing, we did this last year where we talked about our top 10 list. We compared our top 10 lists and then kind of went down 10, 9, 8, 7. And we kind of figured out where we fell, where we were different, where we were similar, and kind of justified our reasoning.
Yeah.
Which I always think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we always release our shows on Mondays. And December 31st is going to be on a Monday.
Right.
So the day before the new year.
That'll be our show.
On our top 10 of 2018.
Yeah.
So how about we give one or two? Like, what's some of your favorite movies of the year so far?
You're putting me on the spot because I haven't actually. You have your list. I don't have my list yet.
I do.
So I
my
need to
list
make
is
my
always
list.
ongoing.
So why don't you share one of yours first?
Okay.
I'm struggling here.
I think.
Without giving like your favorites?
I'm trying. I'm having a hard time without giving one of my favorites away because I'm
one
blanking.
of the movies we've watched the most this year, which is kind of maybe a little embarrassing for being film buffs is Deadpool 2.
It's true. Like, honestly, because we watched it once in the theater and then 3 times at home.
Because we wanted to watch each version. So that's, like, we really enjoyed it. We really did.
Really, really did.
It's not amazing, but we enjoyed it.
All right, I'll give one.
Okay.
One that is probably surprising to most people or some people, and that it made it in my top 10 was Halloween 2018.
Oh yeah, we love that. We really did. We had criticism of it.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect.
We liked it.
It was you can't go into a movie like Halloween and expect like Christopher Nolan type quality.
No.
You're not going to get that. But it was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was fun.
It was.
It was a thrill ride. It was interesting.
And we had a lot of fun doing it in the theater.
Yeah.
Like going and like enjoying it with other people. Like that was a lot of fun. And that's like a comfort zone thing for us.
Very true, because we never really saw.
There you go. Comfort zone.
Boom.
Question person. Comfort zone.
Bam. Yeah, we never really saw a horror film in the theater before. But this was so much fun that it kind of maybe changed our minds.
I think so. It was so much fun, like getting scared and
hearing other people, hearing other people react to things that you didn't react to.
Maybe I was just the person reacting that everyone else.
Possibly.
All right, what's the next one?
Okay, so we'll
answer that one more in depth.
We'll answer that one
later.
In a couple of weeks. Okay, this one, I don't think this one will take us very long. Do you guys embrace the whole quote second screen in quote movie experience or live tweeting? I know you can't stand it in movie theaters, but was wondering if you do it at home. The answer is a big no.
No, we don't do that.
No,
at all.
Second, for those of you who don't know, I think what they mean by second screen is that there's certain things that you can watch and you can tie it in with your Blu-ray player or your Apple TV, where if you have an iPad, it'll bring up behind the scenes information while you're watching it.
The only thing we ever did that with was Mosaic. And that was meant to happen.
Oh, that's a little different.
And that was more like interactive, which was really cool. But as a general rule, unless they're like the filmmaker like is telling us like we have to do this like to get the whole story or whatever, like Mosaic, which was like a choose your own adventure type like viewing experience with an app. No.
Big no, big time
yeah.
no. Never do live tweeting.
No.
Because you can't focus. You can't watch and tweet at the same time. You miss things.
And I really don't care what other people think in that moment. Like, we'll look it up afterwards, or we'll look up, like, reviews before sometimes, like, with going in, which I don't really enjoy. But never during.
And also, if we're watching something together, I see it as incredibly rude if one of us does that over the other.
Yeah.
Like, I will straight up pause the movie if I see you on your phone.
Yes.
And if I'm on my phone, you kind of go over and go, what's the deal? What's going on? I'm just looking up who that actor is. God. And then I put it down.
Right. So I think we're kind of old school in that way that we when we talk to each other, we look each other in the eyes and we don't have a phone in our hands, and we hope to at least not be rude to each other. But I mean, some people might have fun with the second screen thing. Maybe we're too old. I don't know.
I don't care.
But that's just not our thing.
Not our thing.
Nope.
So that answers that. Okay. This one, I feel like we might have to talk out because I couldn't think of anything. So what's one movie watching ritual you've grown accustomed to that your spouse has that you still occasionally wish they'd change? Every once in a while, we get questions that try to bring us, like, try to wedge in between
conflict?
us, bring up some conflict. So I think this was asking, like, what do you do while we watch a movie that pisses me off?
Chew my popcorn too loud. No, I think sometimes
you have something.
No. Like, sometimes I think that a lot of our things like surfing have gone completely out the window because of what we do. We don't have live television. So when we're watching something, we really like have to decide together. I think we sometimes drive each other crazy of like trying to decide.
No one wants to commit.
Exactly. Or like you'll list a bunch of things and I'll just say like no to them, but I'm not helpful in sharing what I'd like to watch because maybe I don't know. And sometimes I think you'll need to get like the picture right right? Like you'll kind of like adjust our television.
That hasn't happened for a
But that
long
hasn't
time.
happened a lot. No.
It's been like a year since this happened,
Right.
because once I got this,
I'm fishing here. I don't know.
once I got the settings right on the TV, I don't touch it.
Right.
The only thing that I change is the brightness. Yeah, like if we watch a movie, I put it on medium. If we're
Right.
just watching nonsense, then I put it on auto for
Is there anything
brightness.
I do?
You already described it. Like, it drives me nuts when I will give you like 6 options and you're like, meh. I'm like, okay, well, what are you in the mood for? I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, my food's getting cold here.
Right. Right.
And so that's actually one thing that we've started doing. Well, we've kind of always done that, where if we don't eat in the living room.
You mean the dining room?
Dining room.
Right.
If we don't eat in the dining room, then it's just like something small.
Right.
Then we'll eat in bed and
Right.
watch something in bed. But we don't. What we'll do is we'll watch like a 22-minute sitcom while we
Right.
eat, and then we're like, then we can watch the movie, because that way we're not distracted by food, and I don't have to worry about like trying to pick something while my pizza's getting cold.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest thing.
I think also sometimes there are things that like I just don't want to watch, and you're like, come on. Like, what was it? Kind of an ongoing joke right now is like you, for some reason, on 4K bought Terminator 2.
Yeah, I bought Terminator 2 on 4K, and I've been wanting to watch it for months.
Exactly. And you're like, you're always like throwing that in the mix. And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop mentioning Terminator 2. I don't want to watch it. And you're like, come on. I want to watch the 4K.
Now it's just become a joke.
Exactly.
Where I'm just
That's
like,
never going to be watched.
like, okay, we could watch Toy Story, or like, you're in the mood for Disney. Okay, we'll watch Toy Story, maybe some Up, or something feel good like Terminator 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's to answer the question, right? Like,
Yeah, I think
it's more like the deciding would be.
the deciding.
That's annoying to each other sometimes.
Yeah, either way, how it goes,
Yeah.
because like I can pretty much always come up with something to watch. If it's something that I've never seen before, I'm a little bit more easier to convince to watch it than you.
Right.
But
I've been trying to be better about that.
You have,
like,
you have
I've made
been.
a concerted effort to actually try to be like, okay, I will watch that new thing with you.
This isn't specifically movie watching habits, but I think you don't like me surfing YouTube all the time.
But we watch like the same things on YouTube, so
I feel like there's certain times when though you get upset though, because like I want to watch every trailer that comes out, and in there you'll have a limit.
Yeah, I do. Like because there's certain times when I feel like we're like wasting the night watching trailers, and I'm like, okay, like I can basically like tolerate like 3 a night.
I was gonna say 4, but I guess I'm wrong.
I would say the 4th is the one that annoys me.
No, don't say just kidding, because you're being truthful. Like once you hit that 4th one, you're like, okay, let's watch something for realsies.
For real. All right.
So I think that answers that question,
I think so
right?
too.
I think so. Okay,
Yes.
so last question of the night. What's the first movie you plan to show Ripley? Also, side note, what age will you show her Star Wars and what order?
Nice. That's a good question.
So first one, what's the first movie? We kind of
we already did, yeah.
I know we told ourselves that we were going to wait until she's 2.
But she has our genes and shows she's obsessed with television, which is a problem. So the first movie we showed her, but in parts, was Toy Story 3.
Yes.
She started at Grandma's house with Grandma.
So like the first 20 minutes?
Yeah. And then we finished it with her, and she loved it.
She did, and she sat through the entire thing.
Yes. And I don't understand this child because, like, I started showing her, like, an old Disney animated, like
it was 101.
Yeah. And she started crying. Like, she
started freaking out.
She did not like it. She was like, turn this off. Like, I hate it. Like, Moana was, like, a little too intense for her, although we do have fond memories of her in her bassinet. We watched Moana the first time, and she like shuffled up in her bassinet so she could see the TV, and we kind of like think of that as her first movie
because she couldn't even lift her head up.
No, and she was like she shuffled, like she like reverse army crawled, like to
on her
see,
back.
Yeah, to see the screen, which we just thought was hilarious because those genes of loving television are very strong. But I guess to answer the question, Toy Story 3 would be the first one we would
was
probably
her first
say.
one. But first complete one, like from beginning to end in our care, on our TV.
I don't know.
I don't think we have anything lined up.
I would say maybe going back to like Toy Story because she really likes the character.
I think that's a good one. I think we'll say Toy Story.
And then Toy Story 4 will be coming out soonish.
Yes,
so that is my goal to kind of like that be her first cinema experience.
Oh, you think?
Yes.
Ooh,
We'll see.
We'll see.
We may not make it through the whole film, but that's kind of my goal.
Money well spent there. That would drive me insane. Yeah, that would drive me insane.
But we actually like bought her like a little Toy Story like little figurines and stuff like that because she was really into Toy Story.
Yeah, that's part of her Christmas is the Toy Story figurines.
Yeah.
So Star Wars.
Oof.
I don't know if I have the age down. I mean, it depends on when she's ready. I mean, like 4 or 5? Older?
Oh, I think that's older. I think like 7.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
You were exposed to things way too early.
I turned out okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say like 7 or 8, I think would be a good age.
7 or 8?
Yeah.
That feels late to me.
I know. Jeez.
I mean, I was well
Lived
into Star Wars.
their whole life.
In order, I would go in release order. Hardcore.
Yes.
Hardcore release order.
100%.
No doubt in my mind whatsoever.
No argument
there.
there.
I mean, it's fun if you want to experiment with different orders when you do rewatches, but I am hardcore believer in release order.
Yes.
It's just how it is.
It is. And that's how we viewed them.
So, that's how we viewed them, and I feel like that's how they're built.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the prequels, there's things that only make sense if you know that the other ones exist.
Well, you could use that argument like later too.
I don't think so. I don't think you can.
No?
Oh, no. I think like in order to understand the prequels, I feel like you have had to have seen I'm sure there's tons of people who disagree with me. I'm sure.
They're on their keyboards.
I'm sure they're on their keyboards right now messaging me. But I feel like there are certain things that only make sense if you have seen the originals. But with the originals, you don't need to have seen the prequels to understand the originals, obviously. So
I honestly would be fine with just showing her
4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. And then if she's still interested, then I'd be like, okay, now we have to choose where we go from here.
So you wouldn't show the prequels, you would just go to 7?
Probably.
Just Force Awakens, just so she could get to Rey?
Yeah. Seriously. And then I'd stop.
No. I feel like, because if you're going to watch the prequels ever in your life, you should do it at a young age.
That's true. Like, okay, I'm really into Star Wars, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're young and really into Star Wars, you should watch the prequels.
No, you're right.
Because I was
right.
12 or 13 when The Phantom Menace came out. And I still love The Phantom Menace. It's a very flawed movie. It's not great filmmaking, but I still love it because I loved it when I was a child.
I'm so tainted that I feel like, or jaded, more like, that I can't even remember what I felt when they first came out because I'm so, like, over them. So that could be a fun thing that you guys could do together.
That is fine by me. All right. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And,
yeah, it was fun. Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun.
I'm so glad.
Hopefully the listeners had fun. And if we didn't get to your question, maybe we will next time, or hopefully I will try to be able to find the time to answer you privately. But if you have any questions that you would like to send us so that we could mention them on the air for our next listener question section, you can tweet us. You can message us. You can email us by going to thenerdparty.com/nerdnuptial, select Nerd Nuptial from the drop-down menu, fill out the form, it'll send us an email. And if you like what we do, if you enjoy our show, please, please, please take the 2 minutes, and you can even do it from your phone, and go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. If you give us a 5-star review, we'll mention you on the show.
I love you.
I know.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
I love you.
You don't.